You didn't meet me in the 80s toilet. It's still one of my worst days.
I love hairy legs.
I was being a perv.
Meaty size, 8 boobs, 35C, good looking, sexy girl.
You, because you're the lesbian.
It's the first time I'd ever had someone in that scenario sort of say that.
I think of your dad every time cunnilingus is happening though.
A long time defending your position here. Let's just move on because we're married. It's okay. I've forgiven you.
Welcome to the second ever episode of our podcast, Life Begins. My name is Georgia Stabler-Wright.
And I am John Stabler-Wright. And this is, of course, the story of how our lives were separate and then intertwined and how we've ended up married, starting from when Georgia was 30 all the way up to when I'm 40, which is terrifyingly soon. So this episode, we're looking at December 2021, which is the month that we met. We had our last ever first date. Georgia lent me £100 and she lost the dog, which we'll come to throughout this episode. Now, in every episode of Life Begins, we start off by opening a bottle of Prosecco, and this one is no different. So we're going to go ahead and do that now, and then we'll crack on with the stories. So we're going to start off with pictures from the month, and I think Georgia's going to go first with a picture that is a classic, a staple in the Stabler-Wright gallery. Lore, if you want to call it that. So yeah, your first picture is...
My first picture is a picture of me taken in the wee hours of December 10th, so the morning after our first date.
Sorry, Mark. Sorry, Dad.
And I'm pretty much doing this exact same face. I'm wearing John's hoodie, which has now become like a family heirloom.
Well, technically, you say it's your hoodie now.
It is my hoodie.
What's mine is yours, and what's yours is sometimes mine. But this particular hoodie for the last 4.5 years has been...
Anyway, the caveat of me coming back to John's that evening, not that I needed much convincing in the end, was John would need to drive me back in the morning because I was looking after my roommate's dog.
Do you know what I mean?
Who needed to go out for about 7 a.m. So I think I got dropped off about 6:30. So this was still dark, so it was December, and it was a picture that I sent to my sister because the night before, in the taxi on the way to the first date, I'd told her that, one, I'd not shaved my legs because that would hopefully act as a deterrent for me staying over at her first date's house. And then that was my follow-up to say, clearly the stubby legs didn't put either of us off, so...
Yeah, I mean... Yeah, the charm was just so strong.
Yeah, stubby legs be damned.
Tell you what, if you end up in Yates's having Jaeger bombs and meeting random women in the toilet, then you know you're having a winner of a first date, really.
You didn't meet me in the Yates's toilet.
Oh, you met a friend in Yates's toilet.
Yeah, and she came out and was like, "Got a good one there."
Yeah, exactly. And I was like, well, that's the convincing that I needed.
Yeah, from random characters.
Hairy legs. So that's where we had our first ever kiss, actually, in Yates's.
Classy, keeping it classy.
Fun fact about us. And I do have a message later on that relates to Yates's, but we'll come to that. So, yeah, first date was Salvi's, where Georgia, who hates calamari, decided...
No, I like calamari. My thinking was I was going to order the octopus and nduja because I like nduja, and I thought octopus might be a bit like calamari.
No, let's be real about why you ordered it.
Don't
go for it. Yeah, talk about your pretentious little pact that you had.
Not pact, just a little habit of when we went out to eat together, we'd always try and pick a wild card item on the menu. Not usually a main though. I don't know why I went all out on that.
And you wasn't like seafood.
I know, but I do like calamari, and I thought it'd be similar. Squid, octopus, I don't know. Anyway, it was not a good choice.
And we'll
come 40 minutes late to the date.
Well, I was going to say we'll touch on the date a little bit more later on, but yeah, it started off at Salvi's, and we were walking to the northern quarter because we were being basic bitches. Basically, it was carrying on. It was a school night. It was a Thursday night. I don't think we anticipated it would go too late, and then we just we saw Yates's on the way, and I pointed out that it was 2 for $5 on the Jaeger bombs, and I was like, ironically, I didn't say ironically, I said it ironically,
and I took it sincerely.
Well, it felt like a great idea at the time, and we've ended up here, so it probably was a good idea. We also ended the day going to Co-op just before it shut to get some...
To pick up a bottle of Sauvignon Blanc.
Sauvignon Blanc.
I am 1 bottle of Sauvignon Blanc in, and I did just open the second bottle, and I will not regret it.
What was a key thing that made me realise that Georgia was an absolute winner on that same night was I love hairy legs. No, not really. The key thing was that when we went into the house, I said, just tell Alexa to put on whatever you want. You need to say, Alexa, play this, whatever. And, I've only ever brought a handful of women back, but Why are you laughing? I never had to, I always kept my legs unshaven. I was always,
You're always ready to go.
like, I was always, putting them off.
Fair game.
And in the couple of times I've said that to someone, they'd be like, Alexa play Drake, or Alexa play some random mumble rap artist that I didn't care about. And as I was having a pee, I just heard from the other room, Alexa, play Tenacious D. And I was like, the woman in the toilet was right. Absolutely right. This is a keeper. So yeah, that was the first photo on your side.
Yeah.
I think we were going to do first photo on our camera roll, but this month's were particularly boring. Georgia's was of her monitors.
Yeah, it's a work picture.
Mine was of me, I think maybe at some Christmas market drinking some black liquid that I really don't know what it was, but I don't even know who I sent it to. So the first picture that I've chosen is of a family function with all my brothers and sisters and their partners. And the reason it's significant to me in the reflection is because I had this situation with my ex, who I was only about 2 months beyond at this point. That sounded like she died. We'd broken up maybe like 2 months
She is alive and well.
Oh, we hope so.
And we hope so.
But there'd been a situation a few months before that, where maybe even a month before that, where it was my sister's birthday and she just didn't come, even though it was an opportunity to meet my family. And she hadn't met my family because it had been lockdowny times. And I was like, huh? I'd lived with her family during lockdown. Like, I was in the bubble with her family, and like she couldn't. And to me, that was just like, on reflection, a real, like, that's a serious red flag of, like, maybe not like a red flag of behavior, but like a red flag of, this person doesn't really care that much about you. They're not that invested in your relationship. If that was a red flag, by the way. And maybe at that point, I should have been like, I don't think this is working. If you're not willing after 9 months of being together to make the effort after a lockdown to come and meet my family. And the reason why I want to look at this picture is because I think I was reminiscing on that at this point. I think it was in a lot more of a hopeful place. I don't know if we'd started dating yet because I didn't take the date down, but it just feels like a good moment in time where it was like things are changing for the better. There's optimism, there's hope. So yeah, that's why I chose this picture. My second picture, or your second picture? My second picture is also a family picture, and it's of my granddad speaking to my brother. And the reason I chose this picture is because it's the last time I think we had my granddad at home. My granddad died, I think, just over a year later, and Georgia was with me at that point. She actually came with me to visit him while he was literally on his deathbed. Which, again, when I juxtapose that with the fact that my ex didn't even come to my sister's birthday, you coming with me after like a similar amount of time, maybe a bit longer, like slightly longer, but still.
Well, came to your mum's birthday 2 months in, less than 2 months in.
But the juxtaposition between like something as easy as a birthday, where there's lots of people there,
exactly,
and coming to visit a dying person that you've never met is like levels of difference.
I think a month before, like 2 months before, I think we'd lost your grandma as well. We were there at her house.
Yeah, you visited her just before she died as well. I think it's like 2 days later she died, actually. Yeah, she was pretty much on her deathbed as well. So yeah, I thought those two photos were just quite poignant in terms of, maybe at the time they weren't like big profound things, but when you layer them on top of the journey that we've been on, I think they are like quite special moments. So those are my first two photos. I don't know what your next photo is.
My photos are less reflective and just kind of like the vibes of the summer thing. No, I thought I picked them for a reason though. My second picture is a picture that I took without John's knowledge, so probably a little red flag on my part there. But only because I thought it was really sweet, because I arrived on our second date. I'd gone round to John's house and he was going to cook me dinner, and we'd had this whole conversation about Haj, or I've always pronounced it wrong, but Scandinavian Huga Haj.
You send in how you say it if you are a Danish viewer. I don't think we'll have many Danish viewers.
But the word meaning like cozy, candlelight, a little bit festive, that kind of like, it's a vibe of a word.
Yeah.
So we talked a lot about that. So I arrived and John made a big effort between the first date and the second day. He set up the Christmas tree, candles everywhere. He bought my favourite kind of wine.
Keen, wasn't I?
It's nice though.
He shaved your legs?
I'd shaved my legs that time.
I mean, that's similar.
The seal was broken.
We'll edit that out. Bloody hell.
Anyway, so I sat on the bench at the end of the kitchen. He was like frantically like chopping away and like cooking this dinner. And I was speaking to my roommate earlier, who was asking me what is he going to cook, and I was like, always doing a chicken and chorizo pie. She's like, oh, check in now. And then she texted me saying like, oh, how's it going? And I was like, oh, it's really sweet. He's putting a lot of effort in, which, we love to see. And
it's encouraged me for that because
because then I realised like weeks later it was like a Gusto card recipe. So the second date was like on a Tuesday, so obviously I was being factored into his like weekly rotation of dinners. However, it was still great food. You still cooked it for me, and we still had a really lovely night. It was very hard Tuesday.
Someone needs to tell me why working off a recipe of any sort is different from
Do you remember we had the Gusto binder for a while?
Yeah,
That was nerdy as fuck.
I mean, when we moved out of Brown Street, I think I threw away about like this much recipes, like just a joke.
We still do Gusto to this day. It's
right.
great. I mean, I don't know. Sponsored.
So you're looking for some brand ambassadors? We're right here.
All right.
Yeah, we can.
But we now throw the recipe cards away each week rather than keep them.
Well, we recycle them.
Recycle them, yeah. We don't keep them in a binder anymore.
So basically, George took a picture of my arse, and she's making up this whole story about nervous energy. Yeah, but it's me. I know it was of my arse.
I know, but it's a picture that was meant for.
Yeah, but you've been
like being
you've made up a whole story.
I wasn't being a perv. I was saying he was being sweet, and he put the energy in, he put the effort in, made me feel really special and really nice, and that was a reason.
Cover story.
And my third picture is from that same night, so I'm not going to dwell on it too much because it was just a picture of the setup that John had kind of like made in the living room for our second date. So it was the Christmas tree. It was like the TV background had like a nice like ski scape on it, like mountainous, and then had all the candles on. And wrapped very light around the world.
Took the brief.
You took the brief and you really ran with it, and I really appreciated the effort, and that was impressed me very much early on.
Oh, thanks, Shania. Oh no, Shania doesn't get impressed. Yeah, never mind. My third photo is actually a fuzzy screenshot of a video, and it's a brilliant, infamous video that is in the lore of the Wright family. And I mean, if I show you the screen, like you know which video it is.
Yeah.
So it was from like a games night. I don't know if it was towards Christmas. It was towards Christmas. It was December, but I don't know if it was like Christmas Day. Excuse me. Christmas Day thing, or whether it was just some random day in December. But it was my dad playing Perudo, which is an infamous game in our family. It's a dice game. Georgia still doesn't understand it.
Do not get it at all.
Even though it's based on statistics and maths and reasoning.
I like it when you all yell out.
Yeah, palafico, palafico.
That's the only bit I really get involved in. You've got cut.
Goodbye.
That's what I'm thinking.
Usually we sang that to my dad because he was shit at Perudo, but he thought he was good.
And he insisted on playing it every.
It was his favourite game ever. And yeah, talking about him in the past tense because he's no longer with us. But the reason why this video is so, like, every time I see it, it's in my liked photos on my phone, is because he just is disgusting. He's cheering himself like this. We'll show the video, but he's like cheering because he's actually won. And my Uncle Joe, who's also no longer with us, says, "Oh, you're gonna have to do the tongue thing, Andy." And then he does this horrendous. I can't even do it. It's funny.
I remember you sent that to me when it happened. Cause obviously I
was like, "Where do you think I got the technique from?"
Go on, Daddy, you're the champion.
I'll be thinking of your dad every time cunnilingus is happening now. So
we don't need to say the word, Georgia. Fucking hell, right? My fourth photo, I think, is actually maybe from. I don't think it's that Tuesday night because you are wearing my pajamas, so we're quite far along the line here.
We moved quite quick though.
Yeah, we had like 9 dates in December or something. We had 3 dates in 1 week.
I like to think I was keeping it very chill, to be fair.
You did later on in the month, and we'll get to that.
Yeah, I did
try and be like all chill, like but we'll get to your pretending to be chill later on. But you're literally wearing my clothes at the back door with the horrendously coloured cabinets, and the kitchen looks awful at this point. But the reason why I've taken it is because there's the ashtray in there.
Yeah.
And I remember you saying, like, maybe in our first couple of years of dating, like, how much. Yes, we've been together for 4.5 years.
Okay.
So yeah. So in the first couple of years, you would talk about this ashtray as being like a symbol of, because I don't smoke, no one in my house smokes. I don't like smoking. And I deliberately sort of put that ashtray there available for you before you, like when you came around, rather than you having to ask for it.
The ashtray was symbolic because it was just kind of still there out for the second date and third date and whatever. But it was a number of things that were symbolic. Like, for instance, one morning, like, you'd asked me a couple of nights before, like, "Oh, what do you like with your breakfast?" You don't like ketchup at all. So I was like, "Oh, bacon butty with ketchup. We were neither of us really eat breakfast, so I think we were just kind of like, I don't know, saying what we would have.
I think this was after the third date because it was the Saturday from the Friday.
Yeah.
So
oh no, it was, I said, oh, like a bacon butty or something. So you got all that stuff in anyway, which was very nice. And then the morning of, you're like, oh, actually, do you like any sauces with your bacon butty? I was like, oh, I quite like a bit of ketchup if you got any. And then you just disappeared, left me in the house on my own, and then came back.
Wait. Let's contextualize this.
No, I'm trying to.
Yeah, I know you see. Yeah, let me just contextualize this for people that don't know Georgia. What happened was we woke up. I woke up, said, "Do you want some breakfast?" Yeah. Do you sauce? All of that Georgia said is true. I didn't leave her on her own. She fell asleep immediately after I took my arm away. This is a skill that Georgia has. She's able to fall back to sleep, especially in the morning, for hours when I'm completely awake. So it wasn't as if you were sitting there.
Yeah, but I did wake up and you weren't there, and I was like, this is mental. I've only been in this house once before, so I don't even know if Darren was in, which was John's roommate at the time, so I was just like, okay, do I just let myself do a stay? Well, I don't know. And anyway, so John came back and he'd gone out deliberately just to get me ketchup, which was very sweet. He also noted that I like oat milk in my coffee, and then when I turned up for the second or third date, I think it was, there was like a crate of oat milk there, that long-lasting one. I think he was playing the long game there.
Just like a bargain.
There's a few other things. It was just kind of like, oh, I think you said something like, oh, I'll make space in the spice rack, because we were talking about how much I really like to cook. So it's just the way it was symbolic in small ways that you really made space for me very early on, that made someone who can be quite anxious and flighty feel a lot more safe and kind of like
you're almost tied to the wedding vows then. We might get the wedding vows up to see how closely aligned, but they are pretty closely aligned.
Well, it's the same message though. It's kind of like, I mean, the story made it in because that was like the small bits of our early courting that did make me feel very safe.
You can tell she's from Cheshire. Have you got another photo, or do you want me to check my last photo? Right, so my last photo is
my scribbles.
Yeah, of Georgia's scribbles. So, I mean, I'm not sure I can read all of these. I think it says squash to...
Contextualise the scribbles.
I mean, I'll come to that. I'm not just going to read the words and then be like, moving on. To Ghana game sessions.
Let's have a look.
London question mark, Middlesex, Battersea.
It says squash, 2 gym sessions.
Right, that's fine. I can read the rest. Okay. It's just the gym sessions bit. Self-esteem question mark. Don't know where all the question marks were about.
I think it's because I was kind of like,
I'm going to ask a question about.
Yeah.
Oh, you got a code.
Okay.
So these were things that. So when we were new to dating, I think you've got 2 modes of early dating. You've either got horrendously
dry.
Well, it is dry, but it's not dry. It's
what's your favorite colour?
Aloof. No, well, that's the third. That's the third. The third mode is lazy and boring.
Yeah.
Or just you've not got any personality. The other one that I hate the most is say aloofness. They're not really paying attention, just kind of hi, you okay? What you up to?
Don't chat again.
How was your day?
Bare min effort.
Just keep it.
Inevitably going to fizzle out.
It's the life support of dating. It's it's just keeping it above. Just keeping it alive.
On the back burner, and also if you're not bored one day or you can be bothered, you can go back to it. But I was hated.
You kind of did that to me in a different way, but we'll come back to that.
I don't think I
you
did.
did in a different way. Let me come back to it. But our chat was the third rail, which is the super enthusiastic, essays, 5-minute voice notes. I was known as voice note guy for a while.
Yeah.
Even though I never send voice notes and I hate them, it's just because to respond to Georgia's messages, I just gave up trying to write back and just did voice notes.
So it kind of spills into a little bit of a...
Are you looking for the dog?
Yeah, sorry. One sec. She is still there, but...
So we were just before dog break. Depends how the edit goes. You'll know whether we were looking for our dog or not. So we're talking about this last picture, which was of prompts for Georgia to remember when she was writing her responses to my messages, because the third rail of dating is to be super enthusiastic, attentive, respond to every point in the message, sort of reply as quickly as you can.
I remember your smooth line.
I don't think there were any in December, because honestly, some of the messages I sent in December proper.
Well, you did have a very smooth line in December. I remember it being something along the lines of, because we've been messaging, with the questions, the responses getting wider and wider, we were end up sending absolute essays to each other. I think you said something I think it was to really secure the date, or to to save us from carpal tunnel syndrome. We should probably get on a date.
I mean,
It wasn't that smooth, but it was like,
I mean, it was pretty
good.
Watch my other video on YouTube if you want to know. Yeah, I mean, I always just want to get to a date. Like, I just think that no one is more interesting over text than they are in real life. And if you are, you're probably boring in real life.
I think we did it well though. We had 2 days of chatting, and they were quite long messages back and forth.
Is that it?
Yeah, so we started talking on the Tuesday. We went on a date on the Thursday. Yeah, 100%.
Bloody hell.
No, you got
We
on a date
sent
quick.
essays in those first 2 days. We probably could write a book from the messages we sent in those first 2 days.
Tuesday to the Thursday. Yep, I know, the same.
We were working really hard.
We had the first day with the Tuesday on the app, and then we switched over to WhatsApp on the Wednesday, and we went on a date on the Thursday night.
So that's what I was going to speak about. You did keep me on the back burner because if anyone knows how Hinge works, especially if you're a woman and you've got like 99 likes or whatever, you go through and you...
99 is like it. Drop in the ocean for women, not for me. That sounded really conceited. But women generally...
Had your boobs out in the pictures, so you probably did it.
And my boobs out. A little bit of cleave.
We'll find the picture.
A bit of cleave's all right.
For dating apps, that is like... For all the horny boys on there. But she kept me like in the list, but didn't get rid of me. For like I'd like Georgia within like a week of moving on from my ex. It's the best for us because if we matched earlier on, maybe I wouldn't have been ready for it. So it worked out well. But you did,
and this makes me sound like real. Basically, everyone has this thing on the apps where you go through periods of being like bored with it, or you can't be arsed engaging with it. So it's just kind of like, and then a little like light list builds up, and every now and again, if you've got like a slight bit of energy with it, you just go through that list, even if you're not kind of like that bothered about speaking to people. So you do like a bit of a call, and I kept doing a bit of a call like every few days, and then I kept getting to John and being like, no, I don't want to say no to you, but also like
not going to bother.
I'm not got it in me right now to have like a conversation or
some would say
whatever
to be.
And that happened about 3 times, and I was like, you know what? And to be fair, though, I will turn this around back on you. I don't think you would have liked me if I turned 30. When you like me, I think your age restrictions were up to 29.
No, they weren't.
So make you...
No, they weren't. That isn't me. That isn't me. You were still... On that note, so now looking at messages, the first message that I sent to you was on Hinge, which is the very romantic original way that we met. Mm-hmm. And you'd posted a thing about jellyfish, which I'm sure you remember, and I posted a witty retort about, I hate those soulless fuckers or something as well. And it was such a good response that, you waited 2 months to like me, but then it made it into the wedding vows. I wouldn't have messaged some girl about jellyfish.
No, what I liked about that message was that it was a response to a prompt. So you clearly like read the profile, and you not just responded or did a like or did like a hi with like a wavy face. It was like you put some thought and effort into what's this person about, what can I relate to. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of like what's stuck. You clearly thought about it. So I like that.
I was distracted by the movie talk, but I knew that every man would have responded to the cleave, and I wanted to show a bit of depth and character. So
which you did.
Yeah, and that's why we made it to WhatsApp.
Yeah, and my message that I picked out was the first message you sent to me on WhatsApp, which was, and we included this obviously in our like wedding kind of like pamphlets and newspapers that we put down on everyone's seats, and it was the headline of we've made it to this stage, first hurdle exceeded. Yeah, which I thought was a great kind of like subtitle for a wedding paper.
Another iconic line from me.
Very
what we're saying. So early days, the PhD in English literature is two down in terms of iconic lines in our romance. So
outside of that, it was just essays on essays, like you mentioned before, because we were very keen and we were very communicative. It wasn't like mental. It wasn't every single minute of like every single day, but like the responses and the texts to each other were thoughtful, curated. Every question got a proper response, and there was thoughtful questions asked on both sides. And it was a great, yeah. And like I was saying before, like we started talking on the Tuesday on Hinge, and we went for our first date on the Thursday night. Mm-hmm. So between those two, there was enough of the kind of like general information about someone, I think, in those essays, loads. But by the time we went on a date, there wasn't so much said where we had nothing to talk about.
Yeah, that's always been our ways. Like, I mean, weirdly enough, we spend almost every minute together of our lives, and we still find things to talk about. And that's always been a consistent theme throughout our relationship. And it started then, I guess. We were very open. And there was a lot of eagerness on show. Like early days, said, I'll teach you how to play squash. And that was 4.5 years ago. And we've never played squash, for example.
You said that to me when you were driving back after the first date as well. And have we yet been and had a game of squash?
No, but I think that's probably for the best, if I'm honest. I think that it would not go well for one of us.
I don't think I've got the aggression for squash.
Aggression, let's go with aggression. Yeah.
I think it is aggression. It feels very aggressive.
The fact that you think it's aggression,
Like,
again, yeah, all right. Yeah.
even the swing.
Go with aggression.
That was limpy wrist all over the place.
Yeah, that's probably going to be your issue.
I think it's just limpy wrist and lack of aggression. So maybe.
Yeah. I mean, have you got messages that you want to specifically share?
Not really. It was more vibe. So I've forgotten how.
Don't worry. No, it's all right. I've got plenty. Don't you worry.
I might have got one more because I'll get mine out of the way.
Which is the tone of the podcast. Let's get it out of the way.
No. There was like one point in December where we talked about. You said that you'd really want to do like a road trip in Croatia, and then I was like, Croatia sounds really cool. I'd love to do something like that. And you'd responded saying, oh, let's see where we are in spring or summer. Maybe we can do a road trip in Croatia. And spoilers, Croatia is where we had our honeymoon.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
And then, we did travel around Croatia.
We lived up to that place. First 4 years.
First week of dating, we'd mentioned doing that. And then 3 years later, we were doing it for actual honeymoon, which I think is very sweet.
So another kind of line from me. I'm feeling like as much as I was cringing out my arsehole reading some of the messages back, I think overall I sent some pretty good foundational messages in this month.
John was a keen bean.
I'm right here. I was a keen bean. So speaking of me, the moment that I knew you were falling for me is when you gave me an emoji in my name on your phone. So
I was like first week, and that was important.
When you were falling for me.
Do you reckon?
Yeah. So your emoji that I gave you in response, because I felt it would have been weird if I didn't give you an emoji in response, was a devil, because you're a devil.
You know how that came about though? The only reason you got an emoji was because I sent you a screenshot of something. I think it was a picture of the dog. Or I sent you a screenshot of like a chat within our conversation, and your phone number was still at the top of my phone, which didn't have I hadn't saved your name yet.
Not bothered to save me. I was just one of you.
So you were just like
one of you men.
Oh, I've noticed that you've not saved my name. Oh, I'm joking. I don't care. And I was like, oh shit, no, I should probably save your name. So save your name. You're like, oh, maybe like a cheeky little emoji as well. So I picked like a emoji.
No, I said maybe like when I've deserved it.
Yeah, something like that. Something like, oh, and I was like, all right then. I picked an emoji at random, and it had random. It wasn't random, and I put John, and it was an umbrella emoji because little purple umbrella. And then you were like, that looks quite similar to a different emoji, the eggplant emoji.
No one would have had a field day with your subconscious.
Possibly, but I was like, oh shit, I'll change. And you're like, no, it's fine.
And it's remained. It's still there.
You are still saved in my phone as John umbrella emoji. So whenever you're texting me, John umbrella emoji, it's closed umbrella emoji has said.
Just turn that off. Why?
I quite like it. It's cute.
I think another part of our messages early on was that we spoke about how we didn't want kids. And I remember one of the messages I sent to you was like, my friend Robbo had sent me a message saying he was up at 2 a.m. with his daughter Sophia because she decided that was playtime, and I sent sort of a screenshot saying this is like obviously not what we want, is it? So that was something we got out very early on, I
think it's one of those kind of like important conversations to have early on, because you do need to be on the same page with kids.
Yeah,
you do.
Yeah,
I mean, even if it's kind of like, oh no, I'm not. I mean, even that's important to discuss. But I think we were both. Well, I was anyway. I was like, I can't see it for myself. If this is something that John would, if you would really like, it's good to get it out the way in the first month, because I wouldn't want to waste your time. You wouldn't waste my time.
So we got to that point quickly, which was great, because then that sort of hesitation, that worry was off the table.
Yeah.
And we could just focus on us and what we were interested in. But yeah,
we always did say kind of like if someone wanted to bring it back on the table to discuss, then that would be fair game.
I think we need another dog break. She's crying.
Yeah.
So that brings us on to, I think, sort of the key night in the month, the sort of, the most iconic, the most historic night of, there was two actually. The first one was our first date. So at 1848, I text you saying, don't worry, I'll hold the table if you're late. At 7:20, I said, I think I'm going to eat some bread. And then you arrived at 8:00.
You're missing out some key components there, though. I text you. I remember this because I've scrolled through all the messages in like preparation of this, and I remember, and I can back myself here.
Okay.
I let you know every step of the way that I was going to be late, or I said, I hope the Ubers aren't doing me dirty today because this month they have been, and they were. I booked my cab well in advance, and it didn't pick me up until 7:25.
Okay, yeah.
And I said,
It's a good
I'm
thing I'm
literally-
texting though, isn't it?
I was sat there by the door with my jacket and my shoes on, waiting to go, feeling dead anxious because I was like, I'm going to make a terrible first impression because I'm going to be dead late now. And he finally picked me up at like 7:25. I think our date was for 7:30, wasn't it?
I think it was 7, but...
No, it wasn't. It was 7:30. It was 7:30.
I think for comedic effect.
And I sent you screenshots of where the Uber was.
Okay.
You knew exactly how far away it
I
was
was
from me.
alone in this restaurant.
I told you when it was.
Parties
When I
around me.
looked it, I
Eating a
text you.
garlic bread on
When I text you when I was in the car.
Mm.
This is a wrong that needs to be righted because.
Wrong needs to be right.
Yeah, it is because you brought it up in the vows, being like, you were five minutes late to your birthday.
Yeah, but you also said you're the love of my life. However,
Yeah, but I thought,
which
and it got the biggest laugh of the day actually, so not taking that back.
My favourite person and my greatest love. However,
yeah, well,
And I followed up with like great comedic gold in my vows, which is what you want out of vows. However, I did text you the whole time that I was in that cab. Like you were sending me pictures of the menu, I was pointing some things out, and then you were saying about the
look,
glory
you're spending
bread.
a long time defending your position here. Let's just move on because we're married. It's okay. I've forgiven you. Okay, I've forgiven you. Let's move on. All right.
Forgiving me.
So, moving on.
Wow.
We obviously had a great night that night. We didn't send many messages that night because we were together. I've sort of got in here the next message that was really poignant was the next night I got a booty call from someone else,
Oh yeah.
and I ignored that, and I talked about that in the wedding vows about how like that was like quite you say to a guy you've been on one date with someone else and you get a booty call from someone and it's Christmas and you're out and you're
I mean, it's fair game.
no, but the instinct to not even respond to it implies so much. Even if I couldn't articulate why,
Yeah.
I didn't want, like, thinking back to that moment, I was like, Jesus, like, that hairy-legged lady really sort of,
It's just the hairy,
That's-
like that basically like little Jack Black that was in my house.
the one
last
that
night.
stole my clothes,
Yeah.
forced me to
I mean,
buy ketchup.
I've got a similarly cute story about that though, because the next night, I was supposed to go on like another date, wasn't I?
Mm.
And
You kept calling not a date, but then,
well, you texted me being like, how was the date? And I was like, oh, pretty dry. I'm at home now, and I'm at home now. And this was like 10 p.m. or something. And the truth of it was, I never went on the date. I cancelled it because I was like, no, I don't want to go on that. I had a really nice time last night with this person. It feels like I'd be sullying that by going on a date with someone else. So I cancelled that. So that's very quite cute that we both had those kind of like moments.
it was cute.
The next day,
Whereas you were in bed at like 10:30, 11 o'clock, and I was still out partying until like,
I didn't respond to you. You kept saying like, oh, like, I think you texted me being like, oh, you just missed like I just did the worm and you just missed out. And like I completely like, I was like already like dead to the world by 10 o'clock. So I didn't see that until the next
start
day.
of my night doing the worm. The worm is my trait.
Yeah, exactly. I was like dead to the world by 10 p.m.
The next message that I sort of have screenshotted, and I'll put it on the screen. I'd interviewed people for a role. I'd offered this person a role. They still work at the organisation that I interviewed them at. So this is like 4.5 years later. And the message reads, "Hi, John. Thanks so much for offering me the position. I'm excited to join the organisation. Waiting for the email. Thank you and once again for calling. Meaty size, 8 boobs, 35C, good-looking, sexy girl. Traditional Japanese massage, 30 minutes, £60. 60 minutes, £100. Cash. This is the best bit. Sorry, no black guy due to personal reason." That was the response someone sent me when I messaged them to say, "You've been offered the job."
You screenshotted me that and sent it to me. I was like, no.
And that,
She clearly doesn't know that she said
no, but
something big.
it gets even crazier because I spoke to someone I work with, a colleague, and I was like, I don't know how to deal with this. Like, if this is genuinely her who sent this message, then weirdly, it came from a number that I didn't recognize. So I think I'd messaged her and I got a reply back off a different number. Or I can't remember, but it felt like the number was not her.
Mm.
So I was like, if this is her, this is really inappropriate. Like, I can't.
So how could it not have been her? Because you had the whole correct
this is the thing.
information for the first half of that email.
This is the thing. I eventually went back to her and said, I've got a message from this number. Is that you? And she was like, no. I was like, can you send me the, because she said she had text me. So I said, can you send me the message she sent? And she sent a screenshot of a message that said, all of the same, but thank you once again for calling me personally to let me know. Looking forward to working with you. Cheers, this person's name.
Yeah.
So I must have called her, and then I got a text back off a different number. I honestly cannot even comprehend what the hell happened. That is just a weirdest situation, but I just ended up shrugging it off and being like, she's really nice. I want to give her a chance. And I was right. She's still working there. She's really lovely. I've spent time with her since. It's never come up. I really hope she never listens to this and doesn't clock on that it's her, because genuinely, it's so funny, but I wouldn't want to out her as like, no black guy, personal reason.
Yeah.
Reason, not preference. So that was a standout message from the month. Like,
we got a lot of like fuel for the fire out of that too.
But it was like a mix of like hilarity and anxiety. Like, I genuinely didn't know what to do. I didn't want to like ruin this person's chances of getting a job, because I'm not. If I start giving characteristics of why this person was someone that I really wanted to get this job, like, it may give away maybe who they are. But like,
move on.
No, I'm not trying to move on. I'm like, it was the anxiety of like, I really want this person to succeed, but this is fucking weird. So yeah, it was just. And then the 15th of December was the first night I said to you, it's a school night, maybe we need to calm down. And that was ominous, because 4.5 years later, you've still not learned your lesson. You still don't know how.
Because you're a devil.
No, you're a devil, you.
You're a devil.
I think people vote in the chat. Who's worse, Georgia or me, at being a devil?
John.
Well,
definitely.
I think that you and M probably drunk more on school nights than me.
No, we didn't. We really didn't. We rarely drank at Danemere. No, we
really drank
on a school night.
You said you lived on a diet of white wine and salad.
Yeah, but it was limited to, we'd have one glass of wine when we were cooking and we'd leave it. That skill's gone out the window since.
I've never seen you have one glass of white wine.
I know.
I'm not doing it right now, am I?
It's because she bought the wine, so I couldn't. Big old wine.
So yeah, you ended up with the devil emoji, because yeah. And then I sent you a message as well later on that month saying, Yates is as a possible proposal location, which was bold of me.
Yeah, very bold.
Or indeed wedding venue. So
closed down now.
Yeah, that's the only reason we didn't get married there. Yeah, so it was funny because we realised as well that we're both not morning people very early on. You're definitely not a morning person.
Oh.
I'm not a morning person, but you're like, if you could get away with not being awake in the morning every day, you would not be awake.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then
the rare occasions where I am like up like bright and early, I feel like I'm better than everyone else, and I really enjoy it. You know what I mean? Like getting that morning.
They always smell this, don't they? Yeah. But
proper morning smugness, but it so rarely happens.
Yeah.
And I'm not really mad at myself for it either. But on those rare occasions where I'm up and I'm like smelling the morning breeze and I'm loving the sunrise, I feel like I'm better than everyone's ever.
When was the last time that happened? Like 4 years ago. Anyway, so
I was in a car recently. I think I threw a cup. They have like an appointment for something.
Oh, is it? It was the morning.
It was the morning. The sunrise was coming. What was I doing? Anyway, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that you can't really remember is symbolic.
It's a couple of months ago.
Yeah. Few more messages to get through before the end of the month that really sort of sparked my imagination. One was about how we had our first difficult conversation. Okay, welcome back. Sorry if we've cut there. We're just having dog difficulties. So moving on to a sort of really important set of messages actually in our relationship was the first time, it was about 2.5 weeks in, and it was the first time really that we'd had to deal with something difficult. I think everything had been quite easy up until that point, and then you'd been on a night out with some friends, and I think this was when someone said something that was just so like toxic millennial dating culture vibes around like, oh, do you still feel excited or whatever, and like confusing anxiety with excitement. And then there was this thing about, I said to you, I'm going to come off the apps. And you said to me at the time,
No, I came off the apps first.
Yeah, I know. I knew this, but you said we'd had the conversation about coming off the apps. Then you'd messaged me on this night out about like, you told me you were happy to come off the apps, but I wasn't in the same place. And I was like, instead of go back and read the message, if you don't believe me, I read the message in prep. I know that you don't remember having that conversation. What I'm saying is, I was really pleased with how I dealt with that, because I think in the past I'd have been like, responded in a passive aggressive way. I'm actually look back at this moment as being like a real reflective moment of growth for me, because I responded very patiently. I was like, don't remember it that way. If that's how you see it, that's okay. Let's talk about it the next day. We didn't talk about it early the next day because, well, I was like, oh, she's probably hungover, she's probably asleep. But actually what had happened was you lost a dog.
Oh, it was disgusting morning. It's still one of my worst days ever in life.
I think from then, like, things bounced back really well for us. I think we had a really good reconciliation.
So I explained what happened that morning, and I kind of tried to explain myself from previous night. For me, wasn't like a big deal, but it was a big deal because I think what I said maybe like affected you more. For me, it was a throw off comment, but I was definitely insensitive in that throw off comment, I think.
It wasn't about insensitive. It was about how it's the kind of thing that someone says when they're dating that if it's responded to wrongly can derail the whole thing. And I think that was like a pivotal moment for both of us, the way that we dealt with that on the night and then beyond the night. With something that never happened for me before. Like, I think in previous situations it would have been, I don't want you to think that this is something I'm still worried about. It's not. It's just a message that when I was reading it, I was like, oh my God, that was such a big moment. So, but from the big moment, like, the last sort of message that I remember or read out that I remember the messages on reflection was, and this is a good place to sort of finish the sort of section, is on New Year's Eve we have a conversation about my anxiety. So like, we'd had a date like the night before, and then I'd sent you a message like, oh, I get anxious, and this is what we're talking 2.5 weeks in, 3 weeks into our dating. So early, we were on like date 6 or 7 by this point, and we'd already had this, not even a hiccup, but like a situation where it could have gone wrong. And that's when I said I was anxious about things in general, like sort of go through anxiety and depression, and I can't always deal with it very well. And then I think I just said something like, thanks for being you, when you responded to me. So that on the flip side, to pat you on the back, the way that you dealt with that was like remarkable as well. So I think that what was so good by the end of that month that I realize now is like every time we hit a moment where it could have really gone wrong, it just went the perfect way. It just happened to be like, I think
it might be fair to say we just gave each other a little bit of space and kind of grace around those moments. I think I remember you sending me that message, like, oh, it was a big message kind of explaining what you were going through in your headspace, and thanks for being you. But what I appreciate about that was just like you were opening up to me and felt comfortable or safe enough to open up to me. I think my response was something kind of like, anything that you need or need supporting with, just like, I want you to feel like safe to open up to me.
Yeah. And the good thing is it wasn't just something you said.
No, it was absolutely meant.
Continue to act upon.
I think on our second date, I remember we sat in bed, and I think you first mentioned it. Because I remember the first few dates, we kept like listing off green flags. I don't know if you remember that. It was like even like small things. Yeah. When we sat in bed, and you mentioned that you sometimes felt anxious and depressed and stuff, and my response was something along the lines of just like, well, how do you feel best supported in those moments, and how can I help with that? And I remember you just kind of like giving me like a tighter hug. So I thought that made you feel a little bit seen or a little bit like validated just in that moment of someone you've only met a couple of times.
It was the first time I'd ever had a partner, and you weren't even really my partner at that point. I'd ever had someone in that scenario sort of say that, like,
just in the moment.
Always had different responses to that, and maybe sometimes people had pretended to be that way, but they weren't really. Whereas
I was genuinely trying to understand and be able to understand how I could be.
I don't know if anyone can hear the incredibly loud play going over here. Between the whingiest dog ever, who's not normally this whingy, and the loudest.
Believe it is that.
That's louder than any sort of. It must be really low. So on that note, so yeah, I think like the message of December is. Don't do a podcast underneath a really loud ass play.
Fighting against the sun. I know. It's that thing.
Yeah, I know. Well, I know what it is, but it seems to be getting louder.
Oh.
Now it's going away. Cool. So the message, as soon as I go to speak, she's barking. So the message of December, I think, is like we just dealt with everything in the best way possible, and like that gave us a solid foundation for January, which is quite a hilarious month when we get to it in terms of some of the escapades that we got up to. I'm thinking of Pippa's birthday, for example. enjoy. But we'd save that for January. We'll keep that constant in there as gold. But like, I think January was when we really kicked into gear after like a really positive first month. We were like, right, oh shit, this is kind of getting real now. What we're saying is that we were the most interesting thing about December.
For us,
Yeah. For the world. Through this podcast.
For us two individual people, each other was the most interesting thing, yes.
I mean, we'd hope.
And for no one else. And if it was, it would be weird.
I think our relationship was the talk of the town back in the day.
Universally, people were into us on.
Absolutely. We are the new... I was going to try and name a celebrity couple that people like, but I can't...
I was going to say like the hot...
Brad and Jen, obviously, but like that's not...
That's dated. I was going to say a really modern... Well, I say modern one. I want to at the moment...
Kylie and Timothy.
No, I was going to say Jojo Siwa and Chris.
Oh,
Wu.
Jesus. Who's the Jojo?
You, because you're the lesbian. Little Ellen DeGeneres over here.
And on that note, we'll end December 2021 with me being the lesbian, and we'll pick it up in January. Cheers. Cheers.